people who are no longer bound by NDAs, what are some surprising secrets that you can expose? In a tech support role, one manager used to boast his team's average call times were the lowest in the company. While average call times were in the 12 to 17-minute range, his team was constantly under 10 minutes. His team was awarded multiple times, and his strategy was adopted company-wide to all customer service and technical support teams, including our internal IT teams. That strategy was under a strict NDA, as we did not want to allow competitors to emulate it. When our call center would go bid on contracts, it became an awesome metric. Our customer satisfaction scores are on par, but we have call times 20 to 30% lower than our competitors. The dirty secret of the NDA that I was not allowed to disclose, their big method? Just hang up on people. Straight up. Find a way to say, okay, go ahead and do that and call back if it doesn't fix it. Then hang up. Don't wait for confirmation. Okay, so reboot your PC and your problem should be solved. Thanks for calling. Click. Eventually, they came out with more useful metrics that track things like first call resolution, which absolutely shredded this company, and they went out of business a year or two later. I once got hurt at work, a concussion specifically on camera. I have a history with concussion-like symptoms. I was 99% sure I hit my head, but I lost all memory of the accident. I ended up missing a few weeks of work due to the severity. I wasn't 100% sure if I had some sort of mental breakdown, so asked to see the video so that I could confirm my injury. They flat-out refused to let me see the video and told me there was no evidence that I hit my head. I offered to sign away any rights to sue, and I wasn't even asking them for hospital bills or paid time off. Long story short, I sued them, I won, and had to sign an NDA. I got my wages and hospital bills paid that I wasn't even asking for, and was finally able to get the video. It was a 100% no-doubt head injury complete with a loud bonking sound effect, and me falling down and leaving a dent in the bulkhead that I hit. After the fact, the office staff told me that they were under orders from upper management to lie, and saw they didn't see anything on the tape. They said this was standard for anyone who gets hurt, to just lie about it and let it play out in court. I obviously quit soon after. Guy in our cargo handling warehouse was manually unloading a curtain-sided trailer filled with metal pipes. The load shifted and rolled him off the side of the trailer, pinning him to the ground. After months of sickness, he came back to work and applied for compensation. The company stated that he hadn't hurt himself at work, so he sued for compensation, and his lawyer demanded the security recordings of him having to unload a trailer on his own, totally against the company's own HSE rules. The company then claimed the security records had been overwritten, wiped, destroyed in a freak nuclear explosion, anything to get out of the court seeing them. Fortunately, my mate had a friend who worked in HR, and she copied the CDs and gave them to him. So in court, when the legal rep for the company told the judge that the security recordings had been lost, mate's lawyer had the joy of standing up and telling the judge that this wasn't a problem. He had copies himself. According to Insider Lady in HR, the company took the original CDs out into the car park and burned them. Manipulation of data to give false impressions of reliability was something I saw quite blatantly utilized with little repercussions. My company was struggling to meet on-time delivery schedules, and for numerous years was as embarrassingly low as 40%. A new manager comes in, and within months we are now boasting an on-time delivery rate on a brilliant 95%. Turns out all he did was change what constituted an on-time delivery. Each time we knew a product would be late, we'd notify the customer of the delay and ask them to confirm they still wanted the order. If they still wanted the product, the on-time delivery would be recorded against the new expected date, as opposed to the original promised date. Company literature was being sent out boasting of our 95% on-time delivery, now amongst the highest in the industry, when in fact, we were by that point meeting less than 30% of initial delivery schedule targets. It was so simple that I'm sure numerous companies are getting away with such underhand tricks. Reminds me of the airport that was constantly getting complaints about how long it took for the checked baggage to arrive at the pickup point, so they just made people walk 10 minutes further, so they weren't waiting as long. The private school I worked for was for students identified with giftedness. The owner of the school administered the giftedness test. Can you pay the tuition? You're gifted. Can your sibling pay? Them too. Your cousin, neighbor, kid you know across town? You're all gifted. My son went to a private school for the gifted. It was really a school for the financially gifted. I worked at a cancer charity, and half the people would order things for themselves and charge it to the charity. An eye-opening job for a 16-year-old. NDAs don't cover fraud. You should name and shame them. At my old job, Pam helped me reallocate my clients' ad scheduling so I can invoice out a little extra for the last month of December, 2014, helping me hit my yearly budget. I got let go 2 weeks after that, and I believe the original plan was to fire me under the justification of missing my yearly budget. Instead, I got a severance of $15,000. I believe Pam knew or heard what the lay of the land was and helped me out. Appreciate you, Pam. My dad was axed in a similar manner in 2005, was already on the chopping block for chronic illness the previous 2 years, but his HR rep suddenly got on his case about being up to date on certain info, and sure enough, he was let go right before New Year's 2006 but was able to maximize his severance, disability benefits, and COBRA due to her diligence. I briefly worked at a university in South Florida in the late 90s and early 2000s. I was chosen to be on an academic integrity team, basically reviewing claims of plagiarism and cheating, and deciding between the 5 of us whether it is valid or not. We were made to sign NDAs when we accepted the invite to be a part of the team. There were 3 instances where an employee that was taking classes there clearly cheated, and the issue was brought to our attention. Those 3 times the cheating was blatant. All 3 times we were told to let it go, as it would look bad for the university to have it get out. I'm not sure if this is common for other universities, but at the time, I was under the impression that it was common practice everywhere. It was ultimately one of the main reasons I ended up quitting. I was and still am disgusted by it. I was never under an NDA, but the hotel is under new ownership, so I guess I can say it now. The hotel had no internet connection starting around 1 a.m. to 6 a.m., like clockwork, every night. I don't know if it was just a system fault, or if it was cost-cutting, but without internet, the security cameras didn't work or record anything. The fire alarm system doesn't work either. The alarms go off, but it doesn't call for help. So if we had a fire that started at 3 a.m., for example, then unless someone else that's driving by calls it in, I have no idea what's happening. One night we had an assault happen in the parking lot. The police needed camera evidence, and our cameras didn't record anything because the internet was out. So that was fun explaining to the detectives. Fortune 500 real estate long time ago. We know about the black mold problem. We always knew. We do not disclose it. We intentionally do not look into. We don't want to know exactly what kind it is, because if it's dangerous, then we legally have to spend money to fix it. The only department that is allowed to talk about the black mold problem is press and PR, because only they know how to bury it correctly. That was not a great work culture. Just dealt with a black mold problem in an apartment complex. Found it on the walkthrough after stupidly signing a lease first. They ignored me when I brought it up repeatedly. I got the city involved talking to the high-ups in the company. The 180 they did after that was hilarious. They refunded everything and canceled my lease. You could almost smell the panic in the emails. I worked for a website creation company back in 1999, managing the website for a big brand, large bank that was sponsoring a round-trip paid ticket to the Super Bowl. I worked on the website that collected all the entries, and I posted the rules that the company's legal department wrote to describe the rules of the contest. A random winner was to be selected for the prize, and I wrote a software tool to randomly pick the winner to be used when the contest was over. When the contest ended, I was told to forget my tool, forget the rules, just look in the database and find someone in South Florida, where the Super Bowl was in 1999, so the company wouldn't have to pay for airfare. On a similar note, whenever the contest involves writing a 25 words of less answer, best answer wins. They draw an entry at random, quickly check that the answer isn't complete nonsense or obscene, and that's the winner. Nobody got time to read all that shit. Was never bound to an NDA somehow, but sat in to oversee the technical aspects of Herbalife meetings. We're talking meetings with the highest level sellers and their board. They spoke about how to manipulate low-income and unintelligent people to make them millions of dollars, how to teach others to scam others to make them more money. Herbalife reps were told to specifically target single mothers, as the concept of working from home, before it was mainstream, along with the possibility to bolster their tight finances, were the best prey of such pyramid schemes. Worked at a hospital specializing in cancer care. They were doing something new, actually targeting the type of cancer with the right type of chemo. Most cancer centers do not, so suppose you get cancer C. But the insurance companies, Gov mandates, you get chemo for cancer. AB before treatment for C. As the money increases by like tenfold. Downside for the patient with cancer C is they have to endure way more bouts of chemo than if they just targeted cancer C. So if you ever find yourself in that really bad boat, make sure your doctor's treatment plan is for the right cancer vice for the wrong checkbook. What can a patient do to make sure they're getting the right treatment? I mean, I could ask my doctor, but they'd always say yes regardless. I worked for a company that oversees and enforces self-regulation for one of the power grids in the United States. My job was to help secure it against cyber attacks and to help write the regulations that enforce those protections. I had panic attacks on Sunday nights because I knew at work the next morning we'd go over the list of everything not compliant, and the lawyers would argue they were, and nothing would get done. Many times the lawyers would tell me that I wasn't interpreting what was written correctly. Then I'd remind them that I wrote it with a committee, and if they didn't believe me, they could go look at the minutes taken in the meetings. Instead, they would just document their justifications for being compliant and not actually secure anything. The U.S. power system is now so vulnerable to cyber attacks that it is only a matter of time before millions of people have their lives thrown into complete disaster and potentially hundreds of thousands that will die. I just can't even think about how bad things are now. I remember some journalists saying something along the lines of, "The most depressed people I've ever interviewed all were cybersecurity specialists." Tesla and Rivian electrical components are made in the same facility by a large electronic manufacturer and even share personnel. This once caused Elon to throw a fit and threaten to take the contract somewhere else. The solution? For the next visit, the company separated the lines by a wall and told Elon they had ended the Rivian contract. They still produce both and also the components for the new Ford electric models. Secrets hidden behind NDAs can be more shocking than any fiction. These stories reveal how greed, lies, and manipulation can undermine even the most seemingly reputable companies. But knowledge gives us power. Every exposed case isn't just a sensation. It's a chance to reflect and make a change for the better. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you won't miss new releases. Thank you for being with us.